Welcome back to Plan First Live. I'm Sian Larkin, and I'm the Design Services Manager at Plan First Design. We're a design company specializing in architecture, landscape architecture, and interior design. We're based in Auckland, and we do concept designs globally. So new builds, renovations, anything to do with home makeovers. Our contact details will be on the screen at the end of the talk. You're welcome to contact us. You're also welcome, if anyone's got questions during the live broadcast, you're welcome to pop them into the comments, and we'll see if we have time to get to them and answer them as best we can during the talk. So today we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of bathroom design. You know, one often thinks a bathroom is probably the last thing you think about when you're designing a home, but the smaller the space, the more difficult the design is actually. So we'll have a look at a couple of things today. A few things to just keep in mind is obviously a bathroom, you've got to be very mindful of privacy. The position of the door, the position of where the bathroom is actually located within your footprint. That's also important. Things like ventilation, lighting, having enough space around the fittings so that you don't, fall over the bathtub when you're trying to get to the vanity. Things like your materials, the durability and the water resistance of those materials. Your drainage, preventing flooding in bathrooms is important. Often it's overlooked when designers specify the drawings. They like to work on the fun stuff, which is the materials and the selections and finishes and fixtures. But sometimes they overlook the actual important details, which is things like the slope of the drainage, tiles in the shower, etc. So the first thing we're going to look at today, and this is the biggest no-no in architecture when it comes to bathroom design, never, ever, ever place the toilet directly in front of the door in the line of sight. If you've got a guest toilet, sometimes it's unavoidable, but for a family bathroom or an ensuite, avoid this at all costs. Just take the time to plan it properly. There are always more than one way to design a bathroom. So a couple of things that you can have a look at is you can use partial walls, so they don't have to go all the way up to the ceiling. Just to screen that toilet, you can screen it with a vanity. You can use partition walls, glass works well as well. You keep that openness of the bathroom. You can frost it so that the light still does come through. But just try not to have it in the line of sight of the door, and also just try and shield it out of view. If you're lucky enough to have a large bathroom like this, you can try and put that toilet into its own cubicle or compartment. There's more than enough space here to actually do that. Just coming back to this image, what is nice about this as well is if you do have a family bathroom and you've got multiple people using that bathroom in the mornings before school or before work, it is possible to have more than one person using that bathroom. One person can be at the vanity, another one can be in the loo. So it's, it prevents having that queue for the bathroom in the mornings. The next thing to look at is zoning. Also quite important in a bathroom is you've got your wet zone and you've got your dry zone. So your wet zone would be your shower and your bath, and your dry zone would be vanity, storage units, and your toilet. So make sure that you design it in a way that those are separate. You want to try and keep water away from your vanity. You will try and use waterproof or water-resistant materials, but it is good to just, keep those two zones as separate as you can. It does, if you've got, I see that we're saying that it does keep the space cleaner and safer. If you don't keep those zones separate, it does become a slip hazard on the floor. If you've got a tile, a shower going and you've got a tile floor, that water does splash, onto the floor where the vanity possibly is, and it can cause slips. But you can easily do that with those glass screens. So again, allowing the light to come through, but just preventing the water from actually spilling onto your dry zone. And then ventilation, one of my favorites. Natural ventilation is a must. And again, it's for, you can have extractors if you absolutely cannot have a window or natural ventilation in the bathroom. But it's always best to try and have that natural ventilation. In this instance, this is a luxury house, so they do have that beautiful courtyard and they can open those doors entirely. I often find with design that designers sometimes will design the house as one design, and the outside then would be maybe a little bit of an afterthought. A lot of garden space in houses have got wasted space. Normally, the bathroom would be at the back of the house or at the side of the house, where you wouldn't have entertainment areas. So there is normally outdoor space that you can utilize. You can make a nice courtyard outside the bathroom. Maybe not as big as we've got in this instance, but it's quite doable to, just with a bit of clever and thoughtful design, incorporate a little bit of the garden space that you have got into the bathroom. It does make for a very special experience when you do use that bathroom, because you can open those doors entirely and you've got that outdoors coming in. Nice opportunity to put an outdoor shower as well. If you don't have that, or if you don't have enough privacy to really put sufficient windows in, just make sure that your mechanical exhaust fan and your extraction system is sufficient for the size of your bathroom. And try and put, if you can, try and put that exhaust as close as possible to that shower, preferably on the ceiling above the shower, because that is the space in the bathroom that does get the most steam and the most moisture. And then it can just extract to the outside as quickly as possible without actually steaming up that whole bathroom. The reason we like natural ventilation and we insist on extraction in bathrooms is it does prevent mold. It also helps with bad odors and moisture damage, of course. You want to extract the moisture from the air as quickly as possible so that it doesn't damage your materials that you've got in there, specifically your vanities. Then we spoke about this considerably a couple of weeks ago, is the material choice. You would go for materials on the floor. Again, make sure that they're non-slip tiles if you are going for tiles. Don't go for slippery porcelain, polished porcelain tiles. That does become a slip hazard. Your vanities, go for your most water-resistant vanities. Make sure the edges are sealed, which we spoke about previously as well. And if there are any spills on the vanity, just clean them up as quickly as possible so that there is no water that is standing on that vanity that can get in through potential cracks or openings. Paints as well, that's interesting to just note, is make sure that you use paint that is suitable for a bathroom. You wouldn't go for anything, look, cheap paint is always going to be problematic, but try and go for something that's got a little bit more waterproof to it. Also avoid untreated cabinetry, but we did speak about that previously as well. Then lighting. You would not use just one overhead ceiling light. It's important to layer your lighting. So you would have your ambient lighting, and then you'd also have task lighting, specifically in front of the mirror. You want your light to come from the front so that when you're standing at that mirror, your face is fully lit. If it does come from above or from behind you, it does cast shadows on your face, and it's not the best use of lighting. So try and avoid one central light in a bathroom. Look mindfully. Once your layout is done, then plan your lighting layout. And yeah, just try and avoid those shadows on your face. Let me just have a look at some of the questions that we have got coming in. We can have a look at a couple of them. Here's one. What should I plan first in a bathroom renovation? Definitely layout. And, look at the space that you've got. If you've got a small space for a bathroom, don't try and cram too many items in there. Don't want to do a freestanding bath and a double vanity and a shower. Just be practical, because what will happen is if you try and put too many fixtures into that space, you're going to end up with possibly a door that can't open properly because there's a fitting in the way, or you're going to have to climb over the bathtub to get to the vanity. Those kinds of things you want to avoid. Sometimes less is more in a bathroom. You might only have space to put a toilet, a single vanity, and a shower. So realistically, if that's all you can fit in that space, don't try and over-engineer your layout to try and suit. Your other option, of course, is you can, if there is no other bathroom in the house and you need a bath because you've got small children and babies or whatever, then you can put a shower head above the bath. That is not an impossibility. So yeah, just be mindful about the space that you have. Yes, so what should you plan first in a bathroom renovation? Definitely the layout. Next questions, let's have a look. Keen to know how much storage do I really need in a bathroom. I think storage is underestimated. The amount of storage you need in a bathroom, underestimated. Plan for the items that you use every day. Plan for cleaning products, towels, maybe backup items. So always try and, I like to incorporate a vertical cupboard next to the vanity that you can just store those things in. You want to avoid having too much clutter on the surfaces. It does make it just look untidy. It's difficult to clean and not the best use of space. So think about the storage when you're designing. Don't think of the storage as an afterthought. Just plan it into the actual layout. And maybe we'll take one more. What are the most common bathroom renovation mistakes? I think rushing selections. Try not to rush selections. We always will start with the space that you've got. If it is a renovation, if it's a new build, it's a little bit easier because you can just increase the size of that room if you need to accommodate for certain fittings and fixtures. If it's a renovation, have a look at the space you've got. Be realistic about what you can actually fit in there. And then before you even start looking at specific selections, have a look at your budget. And once your layout is 90% fixed, and once your budget is in place, then you can start looking at selections. Just keeping in mind the non-slip tiles. And you want to have a neutral palette as far as possible so that it does remain timeless, the bathroom. And then the last thing you would do is actually your selections, because that is where you can cut back. You might not be able to put in the very expensive high-end bath that you wanted. You might have to just trim it back, or maybe you'd have to sacrifice a little bit on your tile cost to be able to put that nice bath in that you wanted to. But planning, the most important thing is actually the planning aspect of it. I think let's just hide these comments so that we can continue. I'll get back to the other questions a little while later. Yes, then the clearance around your fixtures. So make sure that you've got enough space that it's not cramped. Toilets, for instance, you would want about 700 to 900 millimeters in front of them to make it comfortable. Make sure you've got enough space when you're standing in front of the vanity as well. You don't want to have to fall backwards into another fitting that you've got behind you. So just mindful on the planning. Also, importantly, just remember you've got a door that needs to open. If you've got a very small bathroom, it might be better to put a sliding door or a pocket door into that bathroom for additional space. You don't want a swing door that actually opens onto a fitting. The vanity might be too close to the door, and then that door can't open properly, and it just makes for frustration and irritation, and it'll damage the door. So just be careful of that. Do all that planning before you start the actual build. All right, now this is a very cluttered little bathroom. So it is a small space, but it could have been planned better. You know, you could have had a vertical, very slim vertical storage in the space where you could have also saved on that shower space. That shower could have been slightly narrower, and it could have just been a glass panel as opposed to the actual wall, because a wall takes 100 mils of space. And if you've got a small space like this, 100 mils is a lot. So that really could have been planned and designed better. Possibly they could have put the shower along the back edge, then the toilet, and then the vanity. That could have helped as well with that feeling of crampedness. And it would have enlarged the space of that shower. Talking of storage, we never used to do this in past years, but make sure you've got a nice shower niche. I know shampoos are always standing on the floor in a shower, or you get these little containers that you stick onto the tiles. So plan it properly. Put a niche into your shower, have a bit of backlighting, make it a feature like they've done in this image, so that you've got that storage space for your soaps and your shampoos, etc. Drawers, I'm a fan of drawers as opposed to cupboard doors. It's much easier to access what you're looking for if you do have drawers. So just make sure you've got a lot of storage space. You know, I did mention previously, tuck a little vertical storage unit into the corner somewhere. It's not going to bother anybody. It's not going to be in anybody's way, and you can fit a lot into a tall storage cabinet. And then you can see here they didn't have much storage at all. So you've got the clutter on the vanity. You've got the shampoo bottles on the floor in the shower. So just plan that storage in when you're doing the planning. Don't do it as an afterthought. And then the drainage. I think we've all seen a picture similar to this. Make sure that your shower has got a slope towards the outlet. It's something that is underestimated, the value of that slope. It doesn't have to be a massive slope, as long as there is a slope that is sufficient. I think 1 in 60 should do. And then it just also prevents pooling. You know, even if you don't get water flooding like this, you don't want water pooling in your shower once you finish showering. You want that water out. It's unhygienic if the water does pool and it lies there until it evaporates. So just be mindful of that. Even if, as a homeowner, make sure when they're doing the build that they have thought about that. Don't presume that it has been done, because sometimes it does get missed. And then the common mistakes that get made. Now, this is not the bathroom itself. This is the position of the bathroom within your home's layout. Try and avoid at all costs having a bathroom door facing a living space. In this instance, they could quite easily have put the door entering from the passage. You wouldn't have looked into the bathroom at all. And the double whammy on this image is that not only do you look into the bathroom, but you do look directly onto the toilet. So there's two no-nos in this image. Just keep in mind, bathrooms are private spaces. You don't want to mix the public space and the private space when you are designing. It's really easy things to fix on a design when you are busy with planning and you haven't started the build. Not that easy once you've got the situation. Not impossible, but it always does pull on your purse strings. And ventilation, which we spoke about as well, over and above the mold and the odors and damaging your vanities, you're going to have paint peeling, because we don't all have tiled showers. The walls aren't always fully tiled. So if there is paint and that moisture is permanently in that bathroom, you are going to get your paint peeling, and you're also going to get damage to your mirrors and your taps. And water does affect most things. So make sure that your extraction and your natural ventilation is adequate. Again, your wet and dry areas, just make sure that you've got some kind of glass screen so that you don't have water coming into the dry zone. We did speak about that a little bit earlier. It damages the finishes and it does create slip hazards. Now, I just want to go to one or two more questions. Let's see what we've got here. What should I spend more money on in a bathroom? Well, it's going to be a very boring answer, but things like waterproofing, it's important to spend on good waterproofing. And then you would want extraction, natural ventilation. So spend money on things that you don't necessarily see. Good fittings also, but I think things that you use every day. Make sure that the vanity is moisture resistant. So it's not always the things that you see as a first impression that you spend the money on. If it doesn't matter how beautiful your bathroom is, if the waterproofing fails, you're going to get a problem with your structure. You're going to have to rip up the entire bathroom to redo the structure. So rather spend money on the waterproofing. Let's just see what else we've got here. I'm not going to take too many more. What materials are best for a practical bathroom? Non-slip would be my number one. Just talking about materials, and this isn't really a practicality thing, although I suppose it could be in a way. If you've got a very small bathroom, try not to make it too dark. So rather use lighter colors in a small space, because it does make the room feel bigger. You can go for the darker, unless you're going for a guest bathroom, which has got you want a specific mood, and you're going for a dark wallpaper or something really moody with lots of accent lightings. Then you can get away with it. But as a family bathroom, stay away from the dark colors if it is a really small room. But yes, getting back to the materials, I think we have harped on this. The non-slip tiles, water-resistant vanities, and I think also just easy to clean materials. Go for large format tiles because you've got less grout. It is easier to clean, it doesn't get as dirty. So that would be my answer to that question. But carrying on with our talk, yes, slippery floors we've spoken about, and we often do see in public spaces those little yellow cones that they put down when they're mopping the floor. Slipping is a real thing. So make sure to choose the non-slip. Sometimes clients get so caught up in the beauty of the tile that they actually forget to ask whether it's non-slip or or not. So just be careful of that. Lighting. This is a beautiful bathroom, but very badly lit. So just make sure that your lighting is adequate. Go to the specialists. We spoke about it when Kim was doing her lighting talk a couple of weeks ago. If you've got a dark bathroom, it is unsafe. Remember, it is still a wet zone. There is water involved. You need to see where you are going. And it's a bad use of lighting at the mirror. You need to be able to see yourself in the mirror. That's why you have got a mirror. So make sure that the lighting around that mirror is adequate. And then don't overcrowd your layout. Again, this is a poor design. The fittings could have been rearranged in a much more efficient way. But nevertheless, don't put too many fittings in if you've got a small space. Rather sacrifice somewhere. Remember, you're going to be using that bathroom each and every day. So it's got to be a space that is inviting. It's got to be spacious enough. You don't want to have an irritation in your life every single day when you go into that bathroom. So prioritize functionality over the features that you want to put in there. And then access to your plumbing. This is very much underrated. Clients don't like having access panels until something goes wrong. Because the reality is that if there is a pipe that gets blocked and you need to get in behind that wall to unblock it or replace something that's leaking, leaks do happen, you need to be able to access it. And if you don't have an access panel, the reality is you've got to actually chop the tiles off. You've got to go through the jib and then you've got to redo. So it's a much more expensive process. It's a much more messy process. That bathroom will be out of action for a couple of weeks. Whereas if you've got an access panel, just plan it in a way that it's not visible. This access panel for the toilet sits on the side of the wall. So plan the access panels. It is important. They are needed. Also, don't put an access panel on the outside of the building on the third floor with no access and expect the plumber to climb up 3 meters or 3 stories of a building with a ladder. I don't think he'll come back to the job. Door swings, make sure on your plans you have enough space for that door swing. Alternatively, use a pocket door. They do work well. And if you've got a existing bathroom layout, is something I didn't speak about earlier, and you're doing a renovation, clients often ask, must their fittings be placed in the same way, or can we redesign the bathroom? So try as much as you can to keep the fittings, if they are all in a line against the wall, like we've got in this image, then it's easier for plumbing. It is expensive to do new plumbing points, so keep your budget in mind. You know, if you've got an open budget, then it is easier. But aligning plumbing against one wall is a cost-effective way of designing a bathroom. And use mirrors if your bathroom is very small to make that space look bigger. In this instance here as well, they've got a portion of they needed a wall at the bottom because that vanity butts right up against that wall, but then they've got glass above it. So you do get that open feeling in small spaces, but mirrors are a good way to do that. And if you are planning a little bit for the future, you can put grab rails into your bathroom if you would like to. It is universal, and not everybody likes that. They like to have a more sleek look, but keep it in mind. Maybe just keep a space for it if you do decide to put it in the future. And I see we're running out of time today. I must be talking a lot. And then just think about acoustics. You know, bathrooms I said it previously, they're private spaces. Try and not have them facing your public spaces. Try and tuck them away around a corner. You know, just be mindful of that design. Rather redesign it while you're still at planning stage. And then lastly, our topic for next week, we're going to just have a look. Why is it that some homes just feel better than others? We're going to have a look at the top 5 ways that you can just ensure that your house has got a good feel to it. And lastly, our details on the screen. Any renovation work or new builds, feel free to contact us. There are our details. And I look forward to our topic next week. Come with your questions.